Greetings and welcome to Enigmatic. I hope everybody is doing well on this Tuesday morning. There's something that I want to talk about, but I don't know how to talk about it. And so I'm going to explore this with all of you. This is part of processing emotions, part of processing trauma, and part of, developing ourselves. And for me in this instance, it connects to a lot of ways in which I feel like a late bloomer, not really considering certain factors like socioeconomic status and environment and education of parents and things like that. And so I am exploring trauma right now, trauma from childhood. My goal is to be honest and open. I might not be nice, but I'm not going to be cruel. I do find cruelty to be just useless overall. Cruelty kind of extends to lack of self-control to me. There's a lot of people that are cruel, so there's a lot of lack of self-control out there. Anyway, but this is a lot of the things that I want to bring up and that are, moving their way through my mind as I'm trying to actually process them and continue peeling layers. That's kind of how these processes go. Because I feel like my childhood haunts me in a way. Talking on this channel is hard for me. I think I've spoken a little bit about that. I've written the sentence, I would practice not talking more than 5,000 times. So there's a certain way in which I'm conditioned to not be expressive. I was conditioned to be, weak and like subservient, things like that. And I'm seeing through the trauma denial that I've had, because I'm a very aware person. So, there's 8 billion people on this planet, 80% of which live on less than $10 a day. So, we can extrapolate around the world that there's a great deal of trauma. And so that's one of the things that makes me feel like my trauma ain't shit. But my trauma is my trauma for me. And what's funny is I compound it by having certain realizations about the world. Because there's nothing I can do for that 80% of people. And that hurts me, right? But the point of that is that I have a habit of making it seem like I should just get over shit and I shouldn't have any issues in the first place. And some of this comes from society as well. If I have hypothetical conversations in my mind with hypothetical people that tend to represent a certain perspective of society that I have. So, there's a lot of people who are like, be a man. Like, yeah, shit was hard for me too. But, here I am. I ain't whining about it like a little bitch. And I'm coming to a very different point with regards to that. That, if somebody wants to talk in that way about it, then I can, feasibly respond either internally or externally with, you're still a bitch because you don't want to access your emotions, and that takes some real strength. Restraining ourselves from the things that we really want to do that might not be in the best interest of others and might not be in the best interest for ourselves, and might be something that's wrong, we shouldn't do. But I don't know, look at the world right now. And so, we've hopped into what I want to talk about ever so slowly, and I'm glad. And one of the things that's, coming out of this is, I feel confident right now, confident in the things that I want to say and share. And I kind of don't care about feelings as much. This is my story. This is my truth. This is my perspective. And I'm a very thoughtful and incisive person. So there's times where people seem to be looking for a reason to get offended instead of trying to understand what was said and why it was said and where it comes from. So yeah, yeah, I'm just going through a lot. I had to, like, I'm 36 years old, and I'm realizing that for a lot of different things, I don't need permission. There's a certain, it, it kind of goes back to that dominant other video or it was a video on depression, and I talked about the dominant other, where there is this innate need for an external cue before I feel okay about something, right? So, for example, I'm a psychedelic medicine person, psychedelic aficionado, psychonaut, whatever you want to call it. And I love psychedelics to death, right? But because of the things that I've been through in my life, I have a lot of paranoia around it. And I deprive myself of something that can be of high use to me, especially since, I'm an advanced practitioner. I've been doing this for a while, and I've been doing it mindfully and on point for a while. But it took another person to tell me, do your damn medicine. You're a medicine person. Like, you're good. Like, stop, freaking out about this. And they're not the only person that's, had to tell me that either. And the reason that it doesn't sink in is because my father was my dominant other growing up, and I had to, ask for permission for everything. I remember asking for a piece of fucking candy when I was 17 years old. It's like I'm not even allowed to, like, grow up and become like a man, right? And so, at 36 years old, and, it's been going through my mind over and over and over again how I don't need permission. Like, I don't fucking need permission. In order to do this video, I actually, smoked a little bit of changa, which is a blend of herbs infused with DMT and Harmalas, because it's just something that does me well. I don't do it because it's, I'm gonna smoke some Deems and that's cool. Like, no, like, there's a certain utility for me there. And what I don't like is sloppiness. Like, if people want to do things recreationally, like, I support you and your freedom. So sorry if, it seems like I'm talking shit about people. Anyway, but yeah, I did smoke a little bit in order to do this video, and part of it was to it was in spite of and to spite the things that I'm dealing with right now, and the growth that I'm going through. And it's funny because there's definitely growing pains here. There's a lot of different facets and puzzle pieces that I've been dealing with for a long time with regards to my father and my childhood specifically, not to mention just other traumas and things that haven't gone well that I haven't made the best sense out of because I've instead just been too hard on myself, like college. But this is like one of the times in my life where I feel that a lot of the pieces that I've worked on disparately are kind of coming together, and I can see, like, the entire gestalt. And it's helping me. Like, I can really say and see how, in a lot of ways, I'm a very self-defined person, and that feels good to me. I've had to do a lot for myself and on my own, and even that I've done it without realizing it feels good to me too, because there is definitely an element of self-hate and self-loathing that I've dealt with for a long time too, and it's, it comes from my subconscious. It's not something that I consciously think or feel or want to think or feel. So yeah, being that's something that's hard for me to say too, because it just sounds arrogant to me. And not only does it sound arrogant, but I feel that there's a lot of other people that might say something similarly, and there's something they're missing. So, like, people that are like, oh, I'm a self-made millionaire. There's a lot of people that make that claim, and that's not true. They had mom, dad, somebody gave them money to get started. Like, just to say a simple part of that. That isn't to diminish the amount of hard work that they may have put into whatever endeavor. But we can't neglect to acknowledge every factor, and luck is one of those factors. Opportunity is one of those factors, right? Apologies. I feel that, in certain instances, I kind of am losing my way. And it's just because there's a lot that's going on with this, and also, unaddressed ADHD and things. And it's not to make an excuse. It's just to own my part in what I'm doing right now. But you're just coming back. I think that one of the reasons why, saying that I'm self-defined is hard is because my dad told me a lot of times very, very early on, like, stop talking about yourself, stop bragging. However, it was very sideways to me because he would talk to people about what I did, or he would give me permission to talk about things that I did. You know, I found out that um, he estranged me from my family. He kicked me out when I was 18 because I was mad at him. That's why he kicked me out, because I was mad at him. He pretty much told my mom to tell me that if I didn't like something, that I could get the fuck out. So I got the fuck out. And it was because he didn't keep his word. He said he would help me fix my car, and then he decided he wasn't going to help me fix my car. But he kicked me out for 8 years, and he wouldn't allow my mom or my sister to speak to me, which was a very painful time. It's, you know, it's a period of time that adds to feelings of worthlessness that I've had for a very, very long time, despite, you know, the love that I get from other people and the beautiful things that other people see in me. You know, he's just had such a deep and entrenching impact, and that's, you know, that's what manipulative, malignant narcissists do. That's how they get you, and they try to get you for life. You know, it's interesting to just like see all these moving parts. Just breathing with it. But sorry, that's me bouncing around again. So I found out that while estranged from my family, they would go to family functions and things like that, and he would brag about what I was doing in my life, and apparently he was kind of framing things as if, you know, he got me into college, which, you know, if you talk to my mom or anybody that knows me, I got myself there. I got nominated for the Daniels Fund Scholarship. I still don't know who nominated me, but I am eternally thankful to that person. Um, and I had to go through a lot of different hoops, sometimes, you know, leaving school early to, you know, catch the bus to head to some interview or meeting, and going through the elimination process to get that scholarship. And I applied for all of my, you know, schooling and everything like that. And then even what's even funnier about it is that after my first year in college, because I was kicked out and like I wasn't talking to my family, I actually had to get emancipated too. So he doesn't get any credit, and so it pisses me off that he tries to take credit for it. But then it also pisses me off that he makes it seem like that, you know, I've always been like hunky dory with everybody when that's not the case. Um, you know, that just to show the way in which these pictures get painted in a nefarious way. A lot that I've dealt with, you know, and this is like only, you know, one thing. And my dad, there's definitely other things that I've dealt with and that I need to process better, instead of telling myself I just need to suck it up. You know, it's like, no, I need to process it. And if in the moments in which I'm trying to be honest with somebody, I feel that I'm about to be inducted into the Pain Olympics, I'm just going to try to, you know, leave the conversation, because there's too many times where I try to talk about how I'm doing because somebody asks me how I'm doing, and I'm the type of person to answer you honestly if you're going to ask me the damn question. And it seems that there is this air of diminishing of another person's plight from some people, and I don't know if that is by virtue of them not being able to access their own emotions or having not processed what they went through, or just like a lack of empathy or what, but it just does me a disservice a lot of times when I'm trying to be candid and open and honest. And it also makes me feel not understood, and since, you know, I grew up being gaslit a whole lot, I fall into a mode of questioning, you know, how I'm feeling and how I'm doing, and, you know, maybe I'm just a weak person, right? And, you know, like sitting with that for a second, like maybe I'm just a weak person. I'm starting to see all the ways in which it's otherwise, despite what somebody else might want to say or think, you know, to me or of me. Like my dad is the reason I give so much of a shit about what I might have to deal with what somebody else thinks. Because the bottom line is that I don't really care to a certain extent, because it's hard for me to give a shit about what a dumbass thinks. And like, there's a lot of things that people do and say, and I'm just like, that's off base for one reason or another. And that's not to put myself like on a pedestal or anything, but like I am incisive and I am an anomaly. These are somewhat thematic for me. It doesn't make me better than anybody either. Like, I just want to clarify that. That's something that's like important for me to clarify, because I feel that I learn from others, right? You know, and so I feel that there's a lot of other people that'll like kind of talk well about themselves, and at the same time they do think that they're better because of it, right? It was something I was like sharing with a friend recently. I was like, there might be superior people in the world, and at the same time nobody's better than anybody else, right? So like, they're superior by virtue of like the qualities that they have and everything else, but they're not better than anybody else, because all of the factors that they would have needed to be in control of to have made sure that the qualities they have is the case, they have no control over. So nobody's better than anybody else. Oh man. I feel good right now, and I just want to name that because I don't feel that I feel that very often. But yeah, I think that I'll leave it here for now. This is it's a process, so it's something that's going to take time to really cover all the bases. That's why self-development is a thing. But I think that part of me can just like chill out a little bit, and that's nice. That feels good. So thank you all so much for listening. If you made it to the end, give me a like, give me a subscribe if you so choose. Feel free to share this as well. And be good to you, be good to others. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.